If you are going on a long road trip with a baby or a toddler, depending on their age, I've got some ideas for things you can do. Each one will be dependent on if it's age appropriate or not. Mainly I'm focusing on the toddler age though. So let's start with some toys and products you can take with you. Window stickers, they're like removable, put them back on kind of thing. Doodle boards, I'm a huge fan of doodle boards. You push a button, it clears and they can just doodle all over it again. Books, there's soft busy book style, there's regular books, whatever your kid is into. If they have a couple of favorite books that they really enjoy reading over and over again. Water pens, like coloring with a water pen, these books, I have had no experience with staining or anything like that. It truly is just water in the pen, and I've had good luck with them overall. Flashcards on a ring, I recommend you have them on some sort of a ring or something like that so they are not all over your vehicle and dropping on the floor. You can buy some, you can also DIY some. If you have, a laminator or some, even just like cardstock paper that's a little bit thicker, if you want to write them by hand, like their numbers 1 through 10 or ABCs, or if you want to print off pictures online, cut them out, get really involved. But I do recommend putting them on some sort of a ring. It definitely helps keep your car organized and tidy. Some things that do not involve toys or items would be playing games such as I Spy. It could be I Spy in the car, it could be outside. Singing, counting, doing your numbers, days of the week, all that kind of stuff. Looking out the window at cars, you could look at types of cars such as how many semis or motorcycles. You could do colors. Can we find a red car? Can we find an orange car? And so on. And then just even talking and making up stories. Once upon a time there was and the kid interjects their own part of the story. So those are some items. Those are some game activities and just like verbal things you can do. Then there's also just plain old quiet time. Don't be afraid to almost ignore your kids and just let them relax and not be stimulated. Let them look out the window and just drift off, whether it's sleeping or it truly is just like daydreaming kind of out the window. And then finally, there's always electronics. I personally am not a huge fan of them in the car. I'm not an advocate of them. Like if we're desperate, we get to them, but we definitely don't start with them. And I recommend you don't start with them because if you start with them, that's what they're going to do the entire time. And yes, you're on a road trip. It's okay to have exceptions, but it can also be a slippery slope. And kids need to learn patience. They need to learn how to entertain themselves. And it's also a great time to talk to your children. There's other things you can do in the car. Beyond that, so then there's trying to make your child comfortable in the car. This could be wearing proper clothing. If you're going to be running the AC full blast, maybe have them in pants and a long sleeve shirt. Jackets aren't the most comfortable thing in a car seat, so typically you're not going to have those on. Let them take off their shoes if they want, if it's a long car ride. And just keep them as comfortable and happy as you can. And then food is another part of it that is debatable. Some people like to eat in the car, some people do not. You are obviously going to stop along your road trip. You're going to make stops to eat. There's a couple different ways you can go about this. Some people want to stop at a nice restaurant. I actually advise against this typically because A, it's a long stop, and B, your child's expected typically to sit at the table and have good behavior. If you are going to do one of these restaurants, I recommend one parent sits at the table and the other parent walks around the outside of the building with the child and gets them as many steps in and stretches out their legs as much as possible. If you are comfortable with your children eating in the car, I would consider going through like a fast food drive-through, possibly letting them eat or snack in the car with something you packed. And then when you stop, maybe you stop at a park and that's their opportunity to play and stretch rather than making your stop an eating opportunity. Another thing you could do if you're really comfortable with this is if you have 2 adults, one adult stays at the park with the kids, the other adult goes, gasses up the vehicle, picks up some fast food, and then brings that back to the park, and then you can eat at the park, picnic style, let them walk around eating something. And it can be, if it's McDonald's, they're eating French fries, but they're walking around and they're getting to stretch their legs. And then while you're running to the fast food and running to the gas station, that parent that's at the park with the kids, again, it's giving the kids more time out of the car. And you're just maximizing that time out of a seatbelt and giving them that freedom to stretch and just be as happy as possible. Because road trips are hard on everyone and we all need to stretch our legs. We need to be comfortable. We need to eat and we need to be entertained. So those are some ideas that I have for long car rides with a toddler. I hope those help you or give you some inspiration. Maybe it made you think of other things that I didn't even mention. If you have any great suggestions, consider leaving a comment if you think it would be helpful for another mom or dad.